Well, that got really awesome out of the blue, didn't it? Anyway, how's it going, folks? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of our weekly Ascendance of a Bookworm Season 2 discussion videos. Today we're talking all about Episode 10, Knight's Orders and Requests, but before we get into all that, I do, as always, want to give a big thank you to those of you who shared last week's video over on Twitter. So, a big thank you to Bubba Lubber, Sunyu-chan, Matt87 Eagle, Destiny's Hand, and Ian Say 1. Thank you all so much for sharing last week's video over on Twitter, everybody, and if you too would like to be in the next Ascendance of a Bookworm video, then be sure to share this video around on the internet, and then tag me at JoJo Talks Too Much over on Twitter, and I will be sure to shout out the first 5 of you in next week's video. Also, if you haven't done so yet, consider hitting that subscribe button. We're trying to reach 25K by the end of the year. I think we can do it, but again, if you haven't subscribed yet, that'd be super appreciated. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So, that was a lot. I don't know how you can fit that much stuff into an episode and still have it feel relatively calm and still pretty on brand for Ascendance of a Bookworm. I'm actually genuinely kind of surprised. It's sort of split into 2, right? You get the stuff with the downtown characters, and then you get the stuff with the church characters. Basically split between prepping for the winter and the Knight's Orders. Now, I'm going to start with the prepping for the winter stuff because I find it has the characters I'm most interested in, but the Knight's Orders stuff has like the world building stuff that I'm interested in as well. That said, prepping for the winter basically starts with Ferdy just continuing to be a gigantic asshat. Ferdinand, or Ferdy as we call him in these parts, listen, like he's one of those characters where like I understand why he's saying the things he's saying and doing the things he's doing, but does he have to be such an obnoxious ass about it? Like I really don't like Ferdy. Like I really am realizing that I don't enjoy this character. I like what he does for the narrative, and he looks cool as shit in this episode, but he's obnoxious. You know, it's not that he's obnoxious, he's rude. And he's not even aware he's being rude. And it's so repetitious, and the moments where he's actually like kind are so few and far between that I just don't like this dude that much. And I think that I'm just coming to realize that now, which is too bad, because if you watch like previous videos of mine, back before Ferdy had showed up, I was always excited, like, when's the head priest coming? When are we gonna see the head priest? Oh man, I can't wait for the head priest. And now he's here, and I'm like, oh, yeah, you're okay, I guess. Fran's cooler than you, and Fran is basically a glorified Google Home at this point. Fran is literally just there to give exposition and to tell Myne what's going on and basically be her Google Home assistant, right? That's what he's there for at this point. And he has the personality of a Google Home as well. I ain't saying nothing about Google Home. I have a Google Home, and she's lovely. But I'm just saying, for a guy who's supposed to be human, not a hell of a lot of emotion going on there. That said, he does have a decent enough amount of emotion. I'm not totally knocking Fran, but yeah, Ferdy bothers me, and Fran just does nothing for me. So when we started with them, I was like, oh god, no. But eventually we get to see what's going on with the downtown characters, such as Lutz, who surprisingly enough seems to think that this is actually better for Myne, the idea from last week of just staying at the church. As far as Lutz is concerned, and honestly the way he worded it, I am inclined to agree with him that it just makes more sense for Myne to stay at the church anyway. Once it gets cold enough, just trudging through the snow in the first place is going to suck balls, and then actually you have that worry of Myne getting sick from having to walk through all that snow, and then possibly just getting sick because, as you know, the downtown houses, they're not exactly the most well-insulated places in the world, and Myne does tend to get sick around the wintertime. At the very least, if she's in the church, that place is nice as hell, so you ain't gotta worry about being cold. Lutz is a good kid. Like, I've said this before, I'll say it again, Lutz is probably my favorite character in the show. And I'm so inclined to agree with him anytime he's on screen because he is just that good of a character. And honestly, even if I didn't like Lutz, I would agree with him on this one. It does just make more sense for Myne to stay at the church, even if it kind of bums me out. Because you guys know me, I care about the downtown crew. I don't really care about the church crew all that much. I think the world building stuff with the church crew is great, but if you gave me the choice about whether Myne was going to stay at the church or stay with the downtown crew, yeah, I think you know where I'm going to land. However, narratively, yeah, this makes more sense, and I do agree with it. And I think ultimately it's going to lead to a lot of cool places, especially given what we see by the second half of the episode. But yeah, I as usual, tend to agree with lots. And then we get to find out what Myne's family thinks, and of course, my main man Gunther is obviously upset. And I don't blame him. Like Gunther is the type of dude who, he wears his heart on his sleeve. He might seem like rough and tumble manly man, but he is an emotional guy. We know this. And especially seeing how much he cares about Myne, it bums him out, obviously, to know that he's not going to be with Myne as often as he normally would be during the winter. And it's, I don't know, it just hurts seeing my boy like that. And Effa and Turi, they don't really seem pissed off. They just seem more sort of conflicted, which, yeah, again, I think in terms of how I would react, I'd probably be more like Effa and Turi, where it's like, okay, I get why, but it doesn't lessen the fact that you're not going to be around, and that's kind of disappointing. Like, yeah, we get to visit you, and yes, you're safe, but it's, you know, you still want that person close. Like, it's still going to be sad to ship them off to the church for a couple months. Like, that's never going to be fun. So I do think that they had the right reaction, but Gunther's reaction I totally understand. Like, Gunther being upset makes a hell of a lot of sense. We've seen the lengths he's willing to go to protect not only his family, but Myne specifically, and how much he truly, truly cares about Myne. And I love that when Myne explains, like, well, I have to be there for the kids, suddenly Gunther's, like, tune changes, because he's like, as soon as you make up your mind on something, I can't get you to stop. So just do a good job and be good and stay safe, please. And like, seeing Gunther like that, I'm like, man, like, my main man Gunther, it's, I don't know, Gunther, he's just a great character to see on screen. I absolutely love Gunther to pieces. I've talked about Gunther a bunch in these videos, so you know my opinion on Gunther. And I like that Gunther actually helps out as well. Like, he helps take care of the orphanage. We've seen him do that in the past. We see him and Lutz and the other guy, I don't remember his name, but we see them like trying to wrangle a pig at one point, basically trying to get some food for the orphanage, as well as pigskin and all the ingredients to make glue, which I find to be kind of interesting. I don't know what Myne wants to do with glue, but obviously if Myne asks for help, Gunther is going to come running because he's a good-ass dad. But with all of that said, we've got the prepping for winter section out of the way, and now we got to talk about the Knight's Order. And the Knight's Order is, it's interesting, right? So the Knights have arrived, and they are coming to ask for a ceremony. They're coming to make a request of the church. And I mean, like, listen, obviously this was going to be Myne's job. Like, we all know this. Like, everything seems to be defaulting to Myne now because she's the main character. But in terms of the narrative, it makes sense, right? Because when Myne is like, okay, so why are you telling me this, Fran? Like, why do I care about the Knight's Order? And then Myne realizes, like, oh, crap. Like, Fran doesn't even have to say anything. Myne just realizes, crud. Like, I'm the one who's going to have to do this ceremony, aren't I? Basically because there's just not enough blue robes. The events from prior to the start of the season, where most of the nobles got wiped out, that's still affecting the show and the overall world of the series. So obviously there's not enough blue robes to help out with the ceremony, and Ferdy is busy with noble work, which we will eventually find out is directly tied to this whole situation. But yeah, Ferdy's too busy with noble work, and so of course it's got to default to Myne, because of course it does. And seeing Myne, like, sort of step up in the way that she has lately, like, it's good. I like seeing Myne basically going like, okay, so I can play ball with the church. Like, I can figure my way out around these situations while still staying true to myself. And that's what I really like about Myne in these last couple episodes in particular. I feel like there was just like a bizarro version of Myne that took over for the first couple episodes of the season, and now we're finally back on track. I like seeing it. But yeah, we gotta talk about all the hella fantasy stuff that happens. Like, this is like, Myne even says, like, what's with all these fantasy tropes out of the blue? And I agree. Like, it's suddenly a crazy fantasy show, and I'm like, whoa. But at the same time, kind of makes sense, like, when you think about it. Like, because the nobles are kind of hoarding magic, they're the only ones who really have access to it, so, like, of course Myne wouldn't have seen a lot of this shit. And because Myne hasn't seen a lot of this, we haven't seen a lot of this. Because Myne is our ride-along character. We're experiencing the world through Myne. It's part of the reason why whenever Ferdy's rude to Myne, I get so annoyed, because he's basically being rude to the audience. Like, when Myne is like marveling at all these like fantasy tropes and is like, whoa, this is so cool. Ferdy's like, ugh, God, can you control yourself? Oh, geez, calm down. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, don't ruin the magic by being obnoxious. I've said my piece on Ferdy. I've said my piece. That's all I'm gonna say for the rest of the episode, or the rest of the video. But yeah, seeing like the messenger pigeon, like that's like some next level Harry Potter stuff. Like that pigeon thing was cool as hell. And seeing like the Trombe like getting huge, like we see like a full grown like crazy looking Trombe where it's like eating the forest and everything, and we get to see like the Knights Order riding these like weird like flying creature things where they turn crystals into these like flying beasts. Like one of them looks like Aslan with wings. Like it's just crazy cool. And the Noble District itself is unlike anything we've seen so far. It's so clean. It's almost like cold. Like it's very barren and empty. Even the church has some level of like community feeling to it. Like the Noble District is quiet and cold and almost vaguely kind of creepy. It looks like it's been abandoned, but like well taken care of despite being abandoned. It's very strange. And we see the first view of Sir Karstedt, who is also unlike any character we've really encountered so far. He's quiet, seems a bit stern, and that look that he gives Myne is concerning. I'll probably go more into Sir Karstedt next week, I assume. I have my concerns with this guy, but I'm mostly hesitantly curious to see what's up with him. Some of the other knights, like we end with one knight saying like, that blessing was meaningless. Like, oh God, are we really gonna do this? Are we gonna have like jerk knights? Like, oh, come on. But that's the other thing too, is Myne basically gives everybody a blessing. So Myne is literally just the white mage of the party. This whole thing, like everything got very fantasy very quickly. It almost gave me a bit of whiplash, but in a good way, where I was like, whoa, okay, like, we're doing this now? And again, it does make sense given the narrative of the show. Given, like, how Myne is our ride-along character, it does still make sense and add up why we haven't seen this amount of magic before. It is a lot. Don't get me wrong. It's a lot, but it's exciting. With that said, everybody, I am going to wrap up my thoughts here. You know, like as a closing thought, as a parting thing, I realized this might be the wildest episode of season 2. Like, just in terms of how insanely like crazy fantasy it was. It reminds me of like the episode where we learned some of the lore back in season 1. Like, it kind of gave me that vibe where I'm like, wow, there's so much more to this world than we knew. Anyway, I'm supposed to have wrapped up the video. I don't know why I'm still talking. With that said, though, everybody, if you enjoyed the video, then don't forget to boop the up snoot and share if you care. And if you would like to join the lovely members of the T Squadron, then be sure to check out that first link in the description to check out our Patreon page. And if you do want to help out, it's less than a cup of coffee a month, and I would sincerely appreciate it. So once again, a big thank you to the T Squadron. I'm gonna head out and basically just wish that I had my own flying magic crystal creature thing. And until next time, you stay classy, AniTube, and wash your dang hands.